Hey Spark users, we've received a lot of questions about how to run reports, so today we're going to go over kind of a Reports 101. So after you've logged into the Evergreen client, you'll see over here in the right the administrative part of the panel, and you're going to hit Reports. Okay, so now you have two options. You have My Folders and Shared Folders. My Folders is all of the templates, reports, and outputs that you have run yourself associated with your username. Shared folders are the templates, reports, and outputs that have been shared with you by other users within your library system or within Spark as a whole. To get started running reports, you're going to have to create folders within your My Folders. And to do that, all you have to do is click on the folder that you want to add subfolders to. So for instance, to run any report, you have to have a reports folder. This is where all of your previous reports will be shared to and saved for if you ever want to go back and look at them again. So all you have to do is click on the folder. So for this instance, you're going to click on reports, and you're going to create a folder that you're going to save your report to. So in this instance, we're going to run some circulation reports today. So we're going to create a circulation folder. You can name them whatever you want, but just make sure that you know what they are, and try and keep them organized, which we'll show you in the next step, because it'll make your life a lot easier. Depending on your permissions level, you might be able to share your folders with other users. In this instance, our user account does not have that permission, so we can't. But if you did, this option here for share this folder would be a drop-down menu. You can click either do not share or share, and then who you want to share it with. You can share it with people who are permission level across your individual library, your individual library system, and if you have a high enough level, Pales, but most people don't. So it would most likely be just your library or your library system. So to create your folder, you would hit Create Subfolder. You'll get a little alert that it has succeeded. And now you'll see that your reports has become this nice little folder icon, and you can see by clicking on the arrow your circulation subfolder. So if you want to try it again, you would just click on reports, and we can name another one. So maybe you want to have one for your collection reports. So anything that you run based on your collection, such as number of items in your in a shelving location, or things to be weeded, and other things like that. So create subfolder, and you'll see again when it succeeds, you get two folders. You'll have to also do this for your outputs, because once your reports are run, they save in your reports folders, and anything that is output of those reports gets saved to the output folder. So usually I try and correspond them. So we have a collection in the reports, so we'll have a collection folder in the output. And we will do it again for circulation. So now you see we have two folders in our reports and two folders in our output. Okay. So now that you have your subfolders within your reports and your output, you can get a little bit more specific if you'd like within your subfolders. So say you have circulation and you want folders for each of your individual libraries. You can also do that by clicking on the folder that you want, so circulation in this instance, and you can select Manage Folder. And you have some options. You can change the name, you can delete it, or you can create a new subfolder. So we're going to create a new subfolder for our specific library. So in our instance, it would be the Albright library. Again, you still have those same options to share the folder and to whom to share it with. So we're going to hit Create Subfolder. It succeeded. And now you see we have our reports folder, And then within circulation, we have even subfolders for our individual library. You can do that with your collection folder within your reports, as well as the circulation and collection in your outputs. It's really helpful if you're running reoccurring reports, which you'll see later, to keep them separated, because if you ever have to go and find them, you don't want to have to scroll through pages and pages of reports or outputs if you want just a specific library. Within your folders, you can again change or delete, but can also manage the contents. So if you have reports or outputs, you can delete or move them to other folders. And once we have some content in these folders, we can show you those steps. So those are your folders, and they're yours to maintain, but there are also shared folders, as you can see down here. And they also are structured in a similar fashion, where you have subfolders within subfolders. As a user, you can't add to these shared folders, but only view them. The next step will be running a report, and we're going to run reports that have been created for us via templates by the Spark staff. And to get to those, you'll go down to the shared folders and to the templates. You see right there. And the ESI admin folder are the ones that have the Spark templates that have been created for us. If you've ran your annual reports or looked at them to run them, you'll see that you have a whole set here with corresponding numbers to the questions. They're really helpful this year, so after this class, you'll be able to run them next year with success. There's also templates created by Equinox for Spark, and you see that there are the subfolders of collections, library services, and patrons. And these are really helpful. They've already been built templates, so you don't have to modify them or try and build them from scratch. They're already there. So the first one we're going to do is a general one. This is just a very basic report that is pretty easy to run, and it is in the collections folder. Count of items by library and circulation modifier. You'll see all of the report templates have names, very specific names, but they also have descriptions describing what exactly the report will output or what it's looking for. So a basic one that we thought would be helpful is the count of items by library and circulation modifier. So this one will include counts of item or copy level records that have not been deleted from the system, broken down by owning library, and it filters including owning library and is it deleted. So once we go over this, it'll make more sense. But to run the report, all you have to do is put a little check mark in the box and then go up here to create a new report from selected template and click submit. So now this is the template for your report. It looks like really intimidating, but it's not. So basically the template name is what we were reading before, who created it. So this was an ESI admin creation. Again, what it's going to be, the description describes what it's going to be looking for. So the first thing that you as a user have to do is put in a report name. So you want to make sure your reports are named uniquely because you can't have two reports with the same name. So this is a report maybe we would run once or twice a year. So we're going to put the date, which is the 11th. But you can name it anything you want. It doesn't have to be the date or anything, just as long as you know what it is. And then the description. You don't have to put in a description, but if you want, you can, sometimes just to have a reminder of why you're running the report is helpful. The next one is report columns. And these are the columns of information that are going to be in the output. The first one is owning library. So it's going to list the owning library of the material. It's going to have the circulation modifier. So any books, the number of DVDs, CDs, things like that. And then it's also going to have the number of items. So that's basically what you're going to have in your output. So that's what you should expect to see. The pivot label column and the pivot data column, you really don't have to bother with. That more pertains to if you're going to be doing a lot more in-depth work with Excel, but for these basic reports, you don't have to worry about it. So now the next field is choose a folder to store this report definition. So this is where we're going to store our reports. And as you can see, all of those folders that we created earlier are here listed. So I'm going to run this report for Albright, and it's a circulation. No, it's not, but it's not a circulation report, but I'm going to put it in there. And all you have to do is click on the folder you want it to save into. So now the next is the filtering part of the report. So this is what it's looking for when it's scouring the database. So this one is the owning library. So this is the most important part. So if you read it like a sentence, it's going to look for the item, it's going to look at the call number, and it's going to look at the owning library of the item. And it's going to give you a list of all of the libraries within Spark. So for us, I only want to know what Albright owns. So I'm going to click on the abbreviation for the Albright, which is LC_AL, and then I'm going to click add. So this is the parameter that it's going to look for. So any of the items that have AL as the owning library. And then the next one is the item deleted? So has it been weeded and deleted? No. So it's going to only show me items that are owned by the Albright that are currently in the collection. The next section is the output options. The ones that I usually use are the Excel output and the HTML output. If you really want a CSV file, you could. You don't have to. You can have bar charts, but if it's not a number chart report, it's not going to be useful. So depending on what your output is, so again, your output is up here, so it's going to have owning library, circulation modifier, number of items. So a bar chart probably would be helpful in this instance. Or you can have a line chart. If your report is really big, so if you're searching for tons of information, it is beneficial to uncheck the bar chart because the report will run faster. Now, here are your final options. You have recurring reports. Do you want this report to run, for instance, every day, every month, every year? You can have that option. If you do want to have it reoccurring, you just put a little check in the box, and then you tell it how often you want it to run. Do you want it every week, every month, every day? In this case, we don't want a reoccurring report, so we'll leave it unchecked. Do we want it to run as soon as possible, or do we want it to run on a specific date? So if I want it to run right now, because I want to have the answers, you can click run as soon as possible. But if you're having it reoccur, you would check your box, say I want it to recur every day, and I want it to start, say, tomorrow at noon. If you're running circulation reports, so numbers of circulation, it's beneficial to run it maybe an hour or two after midnight. Don't ever have anything run at midnight because your numbers might be a little weird, just because server times might not be the same. So it's always beneficial to try and have it run 3, 4, 5 a.m. instead of midnight. So in this case, we're just having it run immediately. So you're probably wondering, how am I going to get this output of this report? Is it just going to magically appear on my computer? Well, no, it's not. You can have it sent to your email address as a report link, and then we'll show that in a few minutes once it's done. Or you can have it look in the output folders, which is why you have to select where it's going to be saved. So in this case, we're going to just pick collection, because it's a collection report. So once you have all of your parameters filled, you're going to hit Save Report. If you for some reason, forget to fill one in, so say we forget to put a specific field, so say we forget to put in our owning library. When you hit Save Report, a little alert message will kind of give you an indication that you've left something empty and you can go back and find it. So in this case, we forgot to pick our library, so we're going to add it back. So now we're ready to run our report. So we hit Save Report, and it has succeeded. So I didn't put in my email address, so I'm going to have to go look for my report in my outputs folder. So remember, I put it in my outputs and I put it in the collection folder. So now my report is here, it's done. If it's not done, it will appear up here in the pending list. And once it's complete, it'll come down here in the completed list items. So to look at it, you just put a little check in the box and click, make sure you have view report output and hit submit. So now you can see our bar graph is really helpful. It tells us that we have a ton of items. So for instance, we have 116 ILL items, we have 18 pieces of equipment, 4,013 DVD-Rs, and so forth. So this might not be the easiest way to read it. So you can do tabular output and you can get raw numbers. Or if you hit go back, you can also get your Excel and it will download as an Excel spreadsheet that you can open and manipulate to whatever you need to do with it. So we're done with that report, and our next report is a little bit more involved, so let's do that next. So we're going to go back to our shared folders, and we're going to go back to the Equinox templates, and we're going to click on collections. Okay, the last thing that we're going to talk about today is cloning a report template. And you will need a Circ supervisor permission level or higher to do this. So, once you've logged in with your appropriate permission level, you're going to want to make sure that you have folders under My Folders like you did earlier. So we'll start with templates, and you'll see that our options have changed as well. So we're going to put in our titles for our folders. So we're going to have circulation. And this is, if you have that higher permission level, you'll see that you can share and not share your folders, like we explained earlier. So we're going to create our subfolder, and we're going to create our reports subfolder, and we're going to put our outputs subfolder. So now we're going to go down to the shared templates that we're going to copy. We're going to go to templates, ESI admin, and Equinox templates. And in this instance, we're going to look at a new one called library services. And we have a few to choose from, but if you don't see one that you're interested in or want to see what more options you have available, you can select the limit output to and change it to see all, and you'll see all of the reports that are available in the template. We're going to take the count of circulation by date range, and we're going to clone it because we want to change just one little component of it. So we're going to hit the drop-down menu at the top, select clone selected templates, and hit submit. Now, just like with our reports and our outputs, we have to tell it where to put the template. So we're going to put it in our circulation folder. And then the report template editor is going to appear. And the source, so what part of the database it's looking at, is the circulation source in this instance. If you click on the source name, it'll give you the options for things to look for. So in this case, we only want to change one thing. It will give you all of the field names and the data types. And in the template configuration, you can change the name, you can change the description. The display filters fields tab is what is going to display, just like when we were looking at the templates that were already existing. It would list those items that would come in the output. So this is where you would select those. So in this instance, circulating library is going to display, and the count. The base filters are the items that it's going to look through the database and narrow it down to. So it's going to narrow it down to the checkout time and the circulating library. So say we want to change the checkout date and time to a different. We don't want it from between. We want it for one day only. So instead of having it between two dates, so instead of between February 1st and February 29th, we want it to be on a specific day. We're curious to see what our circulation on a specific day was. You're going to select checkout date and time, and we're going to go down to operator because we want to change it from between to equals. So I want to know what happens on a specific day. And once you've made that change, you'll see that the operator changed, and we're going to hit save. And you're going to hit OK. And we've confirmation that our template has been changed. And now we're going to run it. So we're going to go, because it's your template now, you're going to go to your folders and your templates. You're going to select circulation, and you're going to click in the box to the report that you've cloned. And you can see that it's cloned because it says clone. Now, any changes that Equinox makes to this template will not be affected because you've cloned it and it's now in your folders. So if they change it or make improvements on that report, yours will not be affected, which is good and bad. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to run a new report from selected template. We're going to name our report. Again, you can skip the report description unless you have specific things that you want to remember about it. You're going to see that it's going to list the circulating library and the count. You can skip the pivot columns, but you do have to remember to put where you want it to store. So it's circulation, so I'm going to put it in my circulation folders. And as you can see, now the date is equal to one date instead of between two dates. So I want to know our circulation for February 29th. And I'm going to pick our library and hit add. And I only want it run that one day. So I'm going to skip we're going to have it run as soon as possible. And I'm going to get it out of my reports folder, so I don't need to put my email in. But I do need to put it in the circulation output folder. So I hit save report. You'll see that it ran. And we're going to go to our outputs. And you can see that it's a pending item, so it's still running. So I'm going to hit reload. And now it's done. So view report. And you'll see that we had a circulation of 1,019 on February 29th. And that's the end of our reports tutorial. Thank you for watching.